Hey guys, what's up? Today is a story time about when I had cancer. Normally I'll try to be a little bit more upbeat. Today I can't really promise that just because the whole nature of what it is. So just so you guys know ahead of time, I'm just going to try to get out the facts and stuff and try to really tell you what I was feeling at the time and where my head was at. Back in 2000, I was 22 years old, and it started when I woke up in the morning and I pissed blood. I thought, okay, either A, I'm just going to wait and see if this kind of goes away, or B, I need to go in and get this checked out because this is not good. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but when you're 22, you're just kind of and especially being a guy, a lot of times we're just if it goes away or we don't see it again, we'll just leave it alone. And fortunately for me at the time, I decided to act on it. So I went to the doctor, and initially they kind of said that it was maybe something with my kidneys, and I was riding dirt bikes the weekend before, and so a lot of times if you jar your kidneys quite a bit, or boxers and stuff get hit in the kidneys and things, you will urinate blood a little bit. So they thought that was pretty much probably what it was. But we still decided to go further with a little bit more testing. And you know me, a lot of times I'm always complaining about doctors and stuff, especially on my other channel, and how I don't really think that they're sometimes always doing their job. Fortunately, the way all these events worked out is we kept kind of pushing. So that doctor kind of sent me to another guy, and I went through a couple of doctors and actually ended up taking about a month, an entire month, to finally find out what was going on. So we did a CT scan, a contrast enhanced CT scan, which you drink this fluid and they kind of look at stuff. And I also did an ultrasound. And eventually what ended up happening is on the ultrasound, they had told me, they said, okay, we're going to do an ultrasound in your bladder and your kidneys and all this stuff. And so they said, okay, empty your bladder and go pee. And so I, peed. And then when they did the ultrasound, they said, okay, do you have to go pee anymore? I'm like, no, I don't have to go pee anymore. I just went. And so then that's how they kind of started to find something inside of my bladder. But they weren't able to really tell what it was. So from there, I ended up finally going to a urologist. This was a month or 6 weeks later. We had done a bunch of different things during this time to check for testing and some blood work and the CT scan and the ultrasound. So I went to the urologist, and really the only way to truly see what was going on was going to be with a camera. So what they have is what's called a cystoscope. And so the procedure is called a cystoscopy. What a cystoscopy is basically it's using a cystoscope, which is a long, thin kind of a tube with a camera on the end, and then controls with a handle on the other end, where the doctor can use that to go in through your urethra, and I'll put a picture of the cystoscope here. So what that does is that allows the doctor or the urologist to go in and actually visually see inside of your bladder with a camera. I initially set up the appointment with the doctor, and he said, hey, we need to have you come back and do a full cystoscopy to see what's going on. So the first time I had this procedure done, I was so nervous and I was so scared for so many different reasons. One, it's taken 6 weeks or so to finally get to this point. Nobody really knows what it is, and now we need to go investigate inside my body with a camera. Two, after you see that thing is going through the tip of your penis, in through your penis, and all the way into your bladder to go inside to look. That right alone, for a guy or anybody, that's freaked out. And I didn't know really what to expect. Is it going to hurt? What's in there? What are they going to find? I mean, my mind was just totally freaked out. Fortunately, at the time, I was able to talk with my grandfather, who was still alive, who had had this procedure done quite a bit. And he had actually had some problems with his bladder. So he was able to talk with me and kind of explain the procedure a little bit. I ended up talking to him a lot over this time, and just to kind of get some knowledge of things and kind of hear what he had to say about it, and to kind of know what I was expecting. So to break it down, I'll give you the details. They have a plastic syringe with numbing gel. They take the plastic syringe, they inject some of the numbing gel inside of your penis, inside your urethra. Sorry if it's graphic, but I'm telling you, this is what I had to do for this procedure. So then they would clamp the end tip of your penis so the gel would stay in there and not ooze out, and then you'd let it sit there for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, so it would kind of help numb some of the area. Then they would take the cystoscope, and then they would go from the tip of your penis through your urethra and then go into your bladder. and you didn't really feel it too much, but you'd feel it right when it would go by like your prostate. Your urethra is kind of like, there's an area where it's closed together, where it holds your pee in. So this object is like going through and kind of forcing its way to open it up. That was always uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, and you'd never get used to that feeling at all. Just uncomfortable feeling, just period. What they ended up finding out was that I had a tumor inside of my bladder. So the next step was finding out exactly what kind of like the tumor was. So I ended up going in for a full-blown surgery, scheduled in like the whole hospital visit, and getting put under. And then they took another instrument, went in through my penis, through my urethra, and into my bladder to take a biopsy, to take a sample. That was another procedure that was done. That was like full blown, like out for that one. And then I think a week or so later, whatever, 2 weeks later, we got the results. And I need to backtrack here, because all of this time, okay, I'm 22 years old, and all of this time that I have going on, I have my regular life and I'm young and all this stuff. There's just so much weighing on me, and I'm thinking, and at the time, I know this sounds really weird, but at the time I'm thinking, I'm so young. How do I have these problems? How do I have any of these issues? Like, this is like crazy. This is so weird. And it's like it's on your mind. It was on my mind nonstop, like constantly, like trying, figuring out why and how and stuff. After they did the biopsy, I went back in, and I think I was with my mom, I think I was with my grandma. It might have just been my mom. And he said, we did a biopsy on the tumor, and it is grade 1 cancer. And I remember that office visit, and my mom was immediately upset. I was immediately upset and scared. It was the biggest thing, and just nervous, and just like, I don't know how I can really explain it, but it just wasn't, it was just terrible. It was bad. It was really, really scary for me. And of course, from there, I wanted answers. And I'm really big with, I can change anything in my life if I have the right answers and I know what's a cause or what will prevent or affect or something. I can flip my switch and change anything in my life if I need to. And so I was looking for answers, and I'm seeking out answers at this point, because I want to know everything. I want to know how, why, when, where. And basically we went through a pretty short list, and they said, do you smoke cigarettes? And I said, no. And he said, do you smoke marijuana? I remember marijuana being like a specific one. He said, do you smoke or use marijuana? And I said, no. I said, I don't do any drugs at all. And then he said, okay, well, have you worked in like a factory or something like that? And I'm like, no, I'm 22. I've had a job, but it was like working at like a surf shop and stuff, So basically a lot of the known causes that were for bladder cancer, I didn't have. And not having an answer for that was kind of more annoying than saying, yep, that was it. You did this, and this is probably how you got it. But I didn't get an answer. So what ended up happening is they sort of chalked it up to an environmental factor. And when you talk about an environmental situation or an environmental problem, now your mind goes crazy. So now you think, well, what is it? Was it some water that I drank at some point? Over 22 years at different places. Was it some food that I was eating? Was it a place that I was living? Was it the ocean water that I was going in from surfing all the time? Was it the lake and the river from me going out and water skiing and stuff and boating, all my life? Your mind just goes like overboard with this. So basically, like, he's like, I don't know how long it was there, and I don't know how you got it. So those were real big things to me that were really bothersome, because we didn't have answers. I couldn't get the answers that I wanted. And I'm not blaming any doctor for that, because they don't have answers, and they're not going to always have the answers for that either. But from there, we needed to get rid of the tumor. So he had basically said, like, I'm able to, get the tumor out, and we'll take the tumor out, but there could be complications. So he had to be very, very precise with scraping and cutting off this tumor, but not cutting into my bladder and breaking through my bladder. So even before I went in for the surgery to remove the tumor, he was like, hey, when you wake up, you might have, a bag to be able to have to go pee in, because if I, cut too much in the bladder, and hopefully we're able to get the whole tumor, and hopefully it doesn't break off. And I mean, it was just like a million things, all these things that could go wrong that they need to advise you of. And I just thought to myself, okay, well I have to get rid of the tumor, I have to get the tumor cut out, but when I go under and I go in for surgery and I'm going to sleep, then you don't know what you're waking up to. I went in for surgery. They were able to remove the whole tumor, and when I woke up, I peed blood a little bit just from the procedure, but they were able to get all of it. And then they also checked some of the lining, because a big thing was the lining of the bladder, making sure that it didn't spread to the lining of the bladder. It was consolidated basically to this cancer tumor, which is like kind of your best possible scenario in any sort of cancer situation, is if it's consolidated to a tumor and you're able to get rid of the tumor rather than spreading and growing in the area. So he got the tumor out, everything was good from there, and that was like literally like step one, or the big step of it. That was a good achievement of what happened. But the next years and years and years and years from there on out were a lot. So for my situation, we removed the tumor, and that was good. But then after that came basically like there's a waiting period and a watching period is what ends up happening. So after I got the tumor removed, every 3 months, for I believe it was, I'm trying to remember because it was a while ago, is every 3 months for the first year, I think it was, or a year and a half, 2 years or something, you have to go in for another cystoscopy with the camera to go visually look inside of your bladder to see how everything looks. Is the tumor growing back? Do you have cancer, cancer in the lining of your bladder? Needless to say, during that time of my life, it was constantly sort of on my mind. And I didn't really want to think about it, and I tried not to really talk about it, because I tried not to think about it all the time. When I got close to the 3-month mark, or every 3 months, and I had to call in and schedule my appointment, and I knew that day was coming, that week, before, the 2 weeks before, I was just in another place, basically. I was nervous and get really scared, because you don't know. You're setting up this appointment to go in, and I don't know what are they going to find out. And I did that for, I don't know, every 3 months for a year and a half, 2 years. And I'd get so nervous going in, and so I'd go in and I would be clear. And it was like a huge milestone each time, because especially right when you remove a tumor, a cancer tumor, the first couple years are very, very critical. The first 3 months are critical, and then if you make 3 months, and then 6 months is cool, and then 9 months, and then a year, and then a year and a half, 2 years. As the longer you go without getting cancer back, the better your survival rate is, or the better the rate is of you not getting it back. So I remember each time was like a little win. Then it spanned out. I did that for a long time, and then we got to the point where we were doing well, so we were able to go every 6 months. So then I went every 6 months for another couple years. As we moved forward, it went from every 6 months to every year. So then it moved every couple years. And now at this point, I go in once every several years, because it's been 15 years now, so that's really, really good. But with my lifestyle now, I feel so confident. And it's not it doesn't weigh on my mind anymore. When I talk about it, I don't like talking about it. This video, I kind of makes me feel a little bit weird, because I think of where I was at when I was younger, and it really bothers me, and it kind of scares me of thinking what I had to deal with when I was younger. And now with my lifestyle, I feel so strong and so confident with what I'm doing, with my exercise and my working out and my knowledge of food, and eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, drinking a lot of clean water, eating a vegan diet. all these things that I'm doing now at the age of 38, I feel so good and I feel healthy and I feel so confident that my body has all the right nutrients that I am able to combat all of this stuff and stay, healthy. Fortunately, I had this incident. I'm never going to specifically know, how I got it or how long it was there, but the good thing is that I acted on it quick and that I followed through with procedures and that I kept pushing forward. And fortunately, I had a good set of doctors at the time that kind of kept, moving forward with things. Because when I finally saw my urologist, he told me, he was like, you're like the youngest or like the second youngest person that I've heard or seen myself that has had a tumor in their bladder that we found at 22. So one of the big takeaways from this for me and for you guys is if you ever have a question or you're really concerned about something, don't just stop with one answer. If you don't feel that something is right, because a lot of times a lot of doctors, they're just going to go with the 95 percentile. 99% of 22-year-old young men are not going to have a cancer tumor, but there are going to be a small percentage of people that will have that. So just to say, oh, you're so young, there's no way that would happen. Now, I don't mean that to freak people out and think that any little thing wrong with you is something major, but don't just take, something simple for an answer if you feel that there's more. Push forward, get another opinion, do another test, because the sooner you can find out about stuff, the sooner you can find out how you maybe got it, or what you can do to prevent it, or what you can do to combat, a disease or whatever, the better you are. And you're going to feel better about it. And now in my life, if for whatever reason I did get something back again, or I did get cancer, I'd be able to go to sleep at night and say, you know what? I was really doing the best of my knowledge and the best of my ability and capability. Because I eat well, I exercise, I take care of myself. And, if shit happens, then shit happens. But I won't be kicking myself later saying, well, I could have not smoked, I could have not done drugs, I could have drank a little bit less, I could have ate better, I could have done all these things. No, I've eliminated those things. So that's just kind of part of me, and that's who I am. And not saying everyone needs to be like that, but that's kind of like more of an insight to who I am and why I'm so passionate about, some of the things that I am today. So I don't know if this helped you guys at all of anything that you might be going through personally, but this was my personal experience, and this was something that I had to deal with, which was a lot for me to deal with. I think it's a lot to deal with at any age. But being young and not quite understanding of why and how, and thinking like, gosh, I'm so young, I shouldn't have any of these problems. It was a lot to deal with during that time. And the other thing is, don't freak out and don't try to stress yourself about something that you don't know yet. So if you get a test done and it's showing something a little bit abnormal, try not to freak out. I know people get into this panic mode, and we live on the internet these days, and it's like, I have this symptom, and so I'm going to type it in and try and figure it out, and a million things come up that could tell you what's wrong with you. I highly encourage you to do your research and to come up with questions to be able to ask the doctor and have a good discussion with them, but try not to freak yourself out by thinking that a lot of these major things are wrong with you, because that's going to freak you out too. So just take it one step at a time, just take it one piece of information at a time as you're going forward with anything major like this. And then you just take it as it comes, We all have to deal with things and push through with life, and we just basically arm ourselves with the knowledge and information that we have, and we just try to hit it head on and just say, hey, you know what, I have to deal with this is how we're going to do it. Sorry, I know this is not a real upbeat, cool, fun video, but I wanted to kind of share my story and something that was a really, really big deal for me in my life, and something that's kind of really affected who I am today. I will talk with you guys later, and I will be here tomorrow. But will you?